Hey everybody, it is Nathan and Jess Selove with another episode of You Might Be Autistic. Say if.
If.
There we go.
For those of you who might be new to this series, welcome. We call it that because autism can be characterized by a number of different behaviors, and some of them are common experiences for a lot of us on the spectrum. Some of them might not be experienced at all. So if you experience this, you might be autistic, you might not. And if you don't experience these things, that doesn't mean you're not autistic.
Yeah, and also we want to laugh at some of them because there's some silly little quirks that a lot of autistics have, and we also want to relate to some of them and discuss some of them. So the point of this is both laughing at ourselves, but also celebrating the things that make autistics unique.
From the perspective of two autistics.
Exactly. Standard disclaimers.
Just because you've met one autistic, it means that you've met one autistic. We're all different. Also, we will attempt to pronounce your user handle correctly, and if we get it wrong, please feel free to correct us in the comments, especially if this is not our first time getting it wrong. We err sometimes. We apologize.
To err is autistic and neurotypical.
No, to err is human, to admit it is autistic.
That's good. That's good. But someone meme that.
Okay. Michael K. says, you might be autistic if you feel emotions a lot harder than any neurotypical would.
Yeah.
I do recognize where that comes from. I think we've mentioned in the past that a lot of people have the assumption that autistics don't have empathy or that they don't feel emotions, that we're sort of robotic. And just because some of our affectations can be robotic or come across that way does not mean we don't feel deeply. Some of us have learned how to hide our reactions because they're not considered appropriate by society, or some of us are just naturally a little bit more closed off when it comes to expressing those emotions.
Yeah, and also don't forget that sometimes it might not even be that you're not willing to express it, but you might express it in a way that neurotypicals might not understand, or also you might have situations in which you feel an emotion for something that neurotypicals cannot understand. So it's both differences in how you express it, but also what you actually feel in the first place. But none of it means that autistics don't feel emotions.
And I do sometimes feel that autistics can feel sort of more driven to emotion by things that are considered mundane, like Nathan spoke to. And so I definitely would just say if you're feeling emotions and you trust people around you, share them with them. Even if they don't understand why you feel that way, ask them to support you in whatever way you want them to.
All right, this next one is from Miles Matheson. You might be autistic if you are accidentally smart sometimes and people are genuinely blown away by your thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, I think that is a not uncommon experience for a lot of autistics. Also, people laughing at us and either being surprised that we're funny or laughing at us when we haven't said anything that we think is really funny. It's just something that we're feeling.
That was really funny what you just said right there.
Yeah. So a lot of autistics are able to put things together sometimes faster than maybe neurotypicals that are around them. We often are good at patterns and detail work, so it can be so surprising, apparently, for neurotypicals to see that.
Another one from Miles Mathis. You might be autistic if you spend a lot of time thinking about a problem and how to solve it. Yeah, autistics tend to be very intuitive and very mechanical and very problem-solving oriented.
Your dad does
like
this
my
in
father.
Raymond will do this in a very thoughtful way where if he has projects, part of the work that he's putting in is, in the morning after he's gotten up, before he's even started the physical work of the project, he's actually thinking and planning, and it might not look like work to other people, and they'll think, but you got up at 5 o'clock and you didn't start this project until 10, but he spent that time planning what he's going to do and thinking of the outcome so that he doesn't waste time or resources.
You might be autistic if you act like a goof outwardly, but are always thinking serious, old soul thoughts that you never really get to share.
That might be part of masking. We've talked before about masking, which is that a lot of autistics have learned or had to learn how to mask their autistic thoughts and behaviors and traits because the world and our culture that we live in is not always kind to autistics. So
Yeah.
that can be one way that presents itself.
Yeah, I have this weird thing where whenever anybody says something, if I can relate it to a line from a movie, a line from a song, a line from a video game, or even just something that someone told me a long time ago, I will immediately be thinking about it and I will want to say that line, but I don't always do it. So instead I just do goofy things. So I definitely relate to that.
Also, I know that I am really uncomfortable when I can tell that people are upset, but I don't know what to do to smooth it over. So I might do something goofy that seems inappropriate because I'm just hoping that the tension will ease a little bit.
Yeah.
Since I don't know why people are upset all the time, but I can sometimes understand that they are.
The neuros are not okay.
They're not. Bleeb says, you might be autistic if when you were a baby, you screamed every time you touched a new texture. All right. I love to talk about textures.
Yeah. How much time do we have?
Yeah. Textures are a huge thing for some autistics, and for me, I feel like that's one of the biggest sensory triggers to me is just textures. Textures of clothing, textures of blankets, textures of food. It's such a huge thing to me.
Yeah. There are foods that she thinks actually taste good, but she cannot eat because she doesn't like the texture.
Unless it's changed or altered.
Yeah. See, for me, I'm more when it comes to texture, I'm more intense when it comes to like
Clothing.
The clothing. Clothing shopping with me is hell. When I got married to Jess, my mother was so happy that she could just upload that responsibility onto her instead.
Oh, sweetie, your mother pushed that off onto me pretty much when we first started dating.
Yeah, fair point.
But it's fine, because I can get him through it. Also, because of texture issues, that's one of the reasons why I really don't like going to the beach. When people talk about the nice, beautiful sand, all I can think about how is it's going to stick on me and stay there, and I can't get it off, and it will be too hot. And I just really, really, really feel so connected to anybody who has texture issues because it's a huge problem, and a lot of people don't understand it, and it's really difficult.
So what you're saying is that you relate to Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker in the most awkward line exchange of any Star Wars movie ever made.
Honey, we talked about this.
We did.
Moving on. Marshmallow Prince Zev gave
Great
us,
name. Great name.
Yes, was very generous with their You Might Be Autistic Ifs, so we're going to share this. All right. You might be autistic if you were obsessed with the weird characters like Lilo from Lilo and Stitch. Who isn't obsessed with Lilo? She's a great gal.
Yeah, well, when she was explaining the process of why she needed to give Pudge the fish a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I was like, no, that makes perfect sense. I mean, you gotta give Pudge a peanut butter and jelly sandwich if he controls the weather. Like, what are you gonna do?
Well, also, her parents died because of a weather-related accident, so she's trying to appease Pudge.
Huh. That I missed when I was younger.
If you are very disorganized, that is interesting. I think I can see a case for that. I think I would say maybe your organizational system doesn't always make sense. I know that I am a messy person, but if anyone comes in and touches anything, it is really upsetting to me.
See, in my experience, autistics can kind of go both ways with that, where they can be either super organized to the point where, like, some people might mistake it for being, like, obsessive compulsive, or super disorganized, but at the same time, they know where everything is.
Well, I noticed that the autistics who tend to be very organized, what makes people wonder about it is that I think it feeds into the rigid rules system, and then it gets into routine. So, for instance, if you always take bills and put them in your, folder by the door, and the folder by the door is not there, it might completely devastate you because this is what you do. This is your program, and you can't fix it, and you can't just start a new one.
Yeah.
That is today's video. And we will be having another You Might Be Autistic If video that's secretly, if we're going to be open and transparent, it's actually a video that we recorded today, and we're just chopping this into different parts next week. But do feel free to leave comments below with your You Might Be Autistic Ifs.
And if you liked this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, support me on Patreon. And you will see us next week.
That's true.